You want to set up boundaries. You have to say no to things that aren't a priority, especially to your manager. Welcome to the Game of Her Own podcast, a free resource for women who work in the sports and entertainment industry. Each week, we get real and talk about the things that hold us back and how we can overcome them and keep climbing to the top. And the top is however you define it. We talk about the highs, the lows, and everything in between. Consider this podcast your secret weapon. You will learn from the best in the business and be able to take immediate action with all the advice that you hear. I'm your host, Jahaan Blake, a leadership development coach and consultant. I've worked in sports for 20 years. 15 of those years were spent working for the Red Sox, Dodgers, and the Cubs. After 15 years of working in the front office, I took a leap of faith and I started my own business. Friends, as a Black woman in sports, I know that the industry can take a toll on your confidence and sometimes leave you feeling defeated. Join me each week so I can support you on your journey. I promise you, each week you will feel stronger and more confident than the week before. So let's get started with this week's episode. What do you do when everything on your never-ending to-do list seems important, seems like it should be tackled first? You know that feeling when there isn't enough time in the day to get to everything, unless you sacrifice your personal life, which I do not recommend. There's just not enough time to get it all done, but it's all important and you don't want to drop the ball on anything. Now, clients often talk about their struggles with prioritizing. And after digging in, sometimes we uncover it's just a simple time management issue. I shouldn't say simple. It can be difficult sometimes. Other times, they're not sure how to make the decision on what task is the most important. They don't know what to start with. I get it. I've certainly been there. I have picked the wrong task before. I've been told that I focus on the wrong things. And from what my clients tell me, if prioritizing is something that keeps you up at night, listen, you are not alone. So I have 3 easy tips. I'm telling you, they're simple and easy that you can try and implement immediately to get your arms around prioritizing. All right, Game of Her Own listeners, this is going to be a fun one. Let's do this. Before we jump into the tips, I want to acknowledge one thing. I just want to align on why we struggle with prioritizing. Sometimes it's really simple. We have very unclear goals. Now, sometimes that's we need to take ownership. Sometimes it's a reflection of poor management. Now, I'm saying these things, and please know this is a judgment-free zone, but you knew that. I'm going to keep going. Sometimes you don't have a system in place. Don't worry, I have some systems that I'll recommend to you. Sometimes we struggle with prioritizing because we say yes to everything. Or I was there, been there, I'm raising my hand, but you can't see me. Sometimes it's because you're a people pleaser. Sometimes our emotions get the best of us. And what I mean by that is things like fear, anxiety, and worry, they impact how we prioritize and what gets our attention. Now, one more thing before we get into the tips. I just want to be real with you and talk about what happens if you do not get this under control. I bet you can guess what I'm going to say. I'm going to say it anyway. Here's the deal. You end up wasting your good brain energy. Yes, that's a technical term, good brain energy. You waste it on the things that aren't important. And then you have nothing left in the tank when you finally surrender to the task you probably should have did first. You run the risk of being viewed as unreliable, and it impacts your credibility with your manager. You miss deadlines. You let your team down, your manager down, and most importantly, you let yourself down. If you oversee a team and you're not prioritizing, that habit is going to trickle down to them. Another thing that will happen if you don't get this under control, and I don't want to see this happen to you, is burnout. It's real, y'all, and it's not pretty. Okay, so now that we've aligned on some of the reasons why we struggle with prioritizing and what happens if we don't get it under control, I want to jump right into these 3 tips. First one, this is an easy one. Involve your manager. Don't prioritize the wrong things. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of things that you need to take the initiative on, put your head down, and get it done. But guessing what the priority is isn't one of those things. Often clients will say to me, I don't know what task, which project, which initiative am I supposed to tackle first? I don't know what the most important thing is. They know what they think it might be, but they're not sure if it's right. And they feel a little uneasy about taking the initiative. If you're not sure in your weekly one-on-one, You have to have a weekly one-on-one with your manager. It could be 15 minutes. It does not have to be long. But all you can say simply, here's all the things I'm juggling, and this is how I'm prioritizing what gets done first. Is that how you see it? So now you've guessed, hopefully it's an educated guess, but you got some confirmation that you're going in the right direction. Now, this is what I see happen often. We run into these roadblocks because we think that asking the question reflects poorly on us. We don't want to ask for feedback because we want our manager to think we got it under control. We don't need any help. Sometimes your manager knows things that you don't even know. Sometimes they see the big picture and they don't share all that information with you. So whether you agree with that or not, that's what happens sometimes. And so when you involve them in how you're prioritizing some of your biggest tasks, some of your biggest projects, let them in on it and let them give you some input. Now, here's what you want to do. When they give you the feedback, say they agree with you, say they shift things a little bit, say they just say, do whatever you need to do, whatever they give you, hopefully they don't say that last thing, but whatever they say to you, this is when curiosity is going to help you grow. Ask them why. So if they don't tell you why one task is more important than the other, get curious, ask why. Be like, oh, okay, I got it. I'll switch things around. Can you share with me why the so-and-so project should get more attention than this one? I think I have an idea, but I'd love to hear. And then they can share with you, hey, the organization, actually, I was in an executive meeting and we talked about the direction of the organization. And we just actually made this decision yesterday that these are the 3 things that we're going to start to focus on. You're going to hear more about this in, the quarterly State of the Union. I'm literally making stuff up if you can't tell. That's something we used to say at the Cubs, but you're going to hear about this soon, but I wanted to share it with you. I'm happy to share that with you now. So you got some insight. You're learning why decisions are made. You're learning more about the business and the business decision behind certain initiatives. Imagine if you don't involve your manager. Imagine working so hard on something and getting something done, putting your blood, sweat, and tears into something. And then your manager had completely different expectations on what needed to get done first. You go in and you show them what you're working on, or you show them, this is done and now I'm going to move on to this. What? I thought no, why would you do that one first? Listen, you can't read your manager's mind. I know. And sometimes you're like, well, why didn't you just simply tell me? I wish you could see the face I'm making. Like, just tell me that I should have did this first. It doesn't always work out like that. You have to involve them in your decision making, and that helps you stay aligned. You could do that all year long. And then what helps is, I'm getting off subject here, but what helps is it'll help in your review, because then you've involved them all year long. You've gotten feedback from them, and then review time, not one thing is a surprise to you. So I encourage you to meet with your manager weekly. And if you're hitting 3 key points, 1 win, what's on deck, and where you might be stuck, when you talk about what's on deck, that gives them the opportunity to weigh in on what you're focusing on. And that's when you can drop I'm working on this project, I'm working on this initiative, I'm working on this, task, whatever it is. And then I'm going to tackle the rest of the stuff, but I'm going to prioritize this and get this done first. That's when they can weigh in, and you can simply ask them, do you agree? Get that yes or no. Ooh, and if you follow up in writing, I love it even better. Second, test out some systems. I couldn't decide if this should come first or the manager should come first, but this is a short podcast episode, so I think it's fine the way it is. But test out some systems that work for you. Like, some people have a long to-do list, get to work, right at 9:00, everyone's coming in, you come in hot, and you just start tackling your to-do list, and there's no strategy behind your day. I have a one sheet that I give out to my clients when they tell me they're struggling with prioritizing. And I tell them, use this for 1 week, and then we can dig into where the problems are. But first, you got to get everything under control. So let me explain to you what the sheet looks like. At the top, it has 1, 2, 3. What are your top 3 priorities for today? Underneath that, it's your to-do list. What do you got to get done today? And then to the right of that is a timeline starting with 9:00 all the way, I think, goes until 7. So you can you can space out the time it's going to take you to do all the different tasks. Okay, so let me say that one more time. The first thing is listing out your top 3 priorities for the day. You can't have more than 3. You can have more than 3 on your to-do list, but you can't have more than 3. That's my recommendation to you, is not to have more than 3 priorities in one day. Underneath that, list out what you're going to do for the day, and then put a timeline to everything. That's going to allow you to focus. That's going to allow you to be like, I have a lot to get done. I don't have time to go to lunch today. I don't have time to scroll on Instagram today. I don't have time to chime in on the group text. right? You're going to silence your phone or turn it over, close your office if you don't have an office, put your headphones on, even if you don't have music, because people will tend to leave you alone if you have your headphones on at your cubicle, whatever you need to do, but you're going to get super laser focused and you're going to understand how much time you have in the day to get your task done. So it's a great exercise to do for at least 5 days in a row. Then you start to uncover and see themes in, oh, this was a time management issue. Oh, actually, I don't know what projects to focus on. It has nothing to do with time management. I'm really good with time management. I need to involve my manager more. It allows you to diagnose your prioritization problem. Another system that I enjoy is the Eisenhower matrix. Now, I don't know if you've heard of this before. I'm going to link to a website. I Googled it. I'm just going to tell you my secrets here. And I found one website that has a video of it, and I like the video. So I'm going to link to it in the show notes for you if this is something you're interested. But another system is the Eisenhower matrix. I also like it because I'm taking a Northwestern class right now, and they brought it up and they talked about this tool for prioritizing. So I'm not going to lie, I felt validated when they brought it up. So it's really simple. You determine what task needs the most time by using these 4 quadrants. First quadrant is do first. Second quadrant is schedule. The third quadrant, you may not have the ability to delegate. You may have a team to delegate to, but the third one is delegate. And the fourth one is don't do. I mean, super simple. Think about this. This is something, if you're going to involve your manager, back to the first tip, if you're going to involve your manager, you can put it into this matrix. So it's easy for both of you to look at all of the stuff that you have to get done. So you're not saying, I can't do it all, but here it is. And here's how I'm prioritizing it. Do you agree? Would you add, change, or delete anything? And let them weigh in on it. So you're not asking them to make the decision for you. You are asking them to give you feedback on the way you're going to approach it. So the Eisenhower matrix will help you very simply and easily sort out the less urgent tasks versus the important tasks. Help you identify what can I delegate if I have the ability to delegate, or what can I just delete? What can I leave off the plate? Or maybe your manager's like, we can't delete that, but it's not important right now. Okay, fine. You can call that quadrant the parking lot. You might circle back to that later. We have 2 systems that you can try, that you can test out. So we have the Eisenhower matrix, and we also have the one sheet, the daily, I think it's called JB's daily calendar. Very, very creative name, where you put the 3 priorities up top, your entire to-do list underneath that, and then you map out what your day is going to look like in a timeline format. So test out some systems. If you don't like either of those, Google prioritizing systems. I gave you 2 that I like and I believe work and that I would recommend to my clients, but there's so many out there. So if those don't work for you, just Google University. Yes, I said that. Google University. I'm sure we all say that. Just look it up, see what things are out there. There's a ton of systems out there that you can test. And if they work for you, keep doing it. 3 tips: involve your manager, test out systems, and the third one is discipline. Make sure you are disciplined. You want to set up boundaries. You have to say no to things that aren't a priority, especially to your manager. Now, I'm not saying when your manager comes over and says, I need to add this to your list of responsibilities. You just say, nope, can't take down any more things. My plate is full and it is running over. A different way to say that, instead of just saying yes and being a yes, ma'am, is yes, I can take this on. Here are the resources I need in order to deliver on what you're asking me to. And here's the timeline that I see this getting done. Or the other option is we can eliminate some of these other tasks from my plate and give them to the intern so I can focus on this new thing. I am happy to oversee and manage the intern and make sure they get these other tasks done. So now you're demonstrating your ability to delegate. You're demonstrating your ability to manage if you don't already manage a team. Because I know a lot of you want to manage a team, and you are demonstrating that you understand work needs to get done, but here's what we need to get it done in this timeline. So a lot of times what I hear, what I see based on my experience for 20 years, based on what my clients are telling me, is sometimes when your manager comes over and adds things to your plate, people say, yes, I'll get it done, and then go bitch about it. Have you ever done that? Have you? All right. I wish I could see your face. If you haven't done that, all right, that's pretty impressive. But I've been there where I've rolled my eyes, but I just said yes. I didn't explain how big my plate, like how full my plate was and what I needed in order to get that done. And then I just would burn out and try to get done, have no social life, work way too long, but I didn't involve my manager. I didn't tell them because I wanted to get it done and just look like I can take on more and more and more. So when you explain to your manager, yes, I got this, but this is what I need to get it done. Here's what's on my plate. Here's how I'm going to prioritize. Here's the help I need, the resources I need to get this done. And here's the timeline I'm thinking. What do you think? And it becomes more of a conversation. A lot of times your managers, and I have been guilty of this. I've watched other managers be guilty of this. We just forget. We forget how much you have on your plate because we also have a lot on our plate. So it's not personal. You just have to remind your managers. When you think about other ways to be disciplined, establishing boundaries and holding boundaries is a really, really big one. But you also want to make sure you think about things like, if I'm saying yes to this, what am I saying no to? So that could be something that you don't need to involve your manager in. Maybe there is a lunch that you might want to miss, you have to miss out on because you need to focus. You have a big task, but you really want to go to the lunch, but it's just something you can't do. You can't say yes to everything. So if someone comes over to you and decides that they want to tell you about their weekend, and you know you've set aside time for the task that you're working on. Someone comes over and wants to tell you about your weekend, and you know that they take forever to talk about what they did for the weekend. And the stories are great, but maybe you say, I want to hear about that, but can we talk about that later? Like, let's walk to the train together or our cars together. At the end of the day, I want to hear all about your weekend. You have to be disciplined. You have to think about, if I'm saying yes to something, what am I saying no to? Now, you can also say, ooh, I want to hear about this person's weekend. I need a brain break. That means I'm going to be here a little bit longer today, but I can do that. Then do it. But just be disciplined in with your time and know whatever you're saying yes to means that you're saying no to something else. Okay, so we have 3 tips: involve your manager, test out systems, and discipline. 3 easy things that you can literally, today is Thursday. If you're listening to this when it first airs, you start these today. If you're listening first thing in the morning, love that you're doing that. But whenever you hear this, you guys can test these out right away. And let me tell you, whatever works for you, keep on doing that. Add that to your playbook and keep doing what works. And hey, if you like this episode or any of the episodes that I've aired that you listen to, do me a favor. Will you leave a review? I want to hear from you. I want to know what you like and what I can do more of, what works. Right. So make sure you leave a review if you have time, wherever you listen to your podcast. Some of you listen to it on Spotify, some iTunes, YouTube. I don't need to list these all. Y'all know what you're listening to. Just leave a review. And if you want to talk to me personally and not go through that system, you can send me a message as well. Either way, it helps me get the word out to other women in sports who are doing the same thing you guys are trying to do. Make sure that you level up in your career and have the career that you've always dreamed of having. All right. Until next week, my friends.